Please.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, please. Right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to the WWII Anglo-Japanese Foundation. My name is Jason James, and I'm just going to do the introductions and then a couple of other things. So first of all, my housekeeping announcements. If the fire alarm goes off, you mustn't use the lift. It's ancient. And if you need any help getting down the stairs, probably our fittest member of staff is Benjamin, sitting in the front row. And the other thing is, please don't leave any valuables in our cloakrooms downstairs. If you've left a laptop or something like that in a bag down there, it's better to pop down and keep it with you up here, because nobody's monitoring the cloakrooms. Right, so our speaker today, who is talking about Chiune Sugihara and related people, is Professor Chiharu Inaba, and he is Professor of International Relations at Meijo University in Nagoya. And I think it's fair to say his main expertise is on the very beginning of the 20th century, the Russo-Japanese War, which was 1904 to 5, and the Anglo-Japanese alliance, which started in 1902. But he's also worked on the Second World War and Chiune Sugihara, who came from Nagoya, which is where his university is, and he's also published on this subject, and that's what he's going to be talking about today. And I think that's probably all I need to say by way of introduction. So please, Inaba-sensei, over to you. Hang on, we've got a video to show, haven't we? Oh, yes, the video. So, yeah, just to set the scene. And there are little bits of it which are in Lithuanian with Japanese subtitles, and I've got some notes here. I'm going to tell you what that says. Don't worry, I don't speak Lithuanian.
Many people, when one talks about the Sugihara visa, in the end of it, many people, when one talks about the Sugihara visa, think that that was the beginning and the end of everything. It wasn't. It was a part, a very essential, very important part. Very few things in history altogether are done by one man or one spot at one time. There are generally traces of different ways in life where things connect in totally unexpected ways.
During the Second World War, thousands of Jewish refugees could escape the Holocaust in Europe through Japan. The visas issued by Chiune Sugihara, Japanese vice consul in Kaunas, are known as visas for life. This is a story about the named and unnamed heroes who made this path possible by forming a chain of courage and goodwill.
My name is Beryl Shore. I was born in Krakow, Poland, on the 5th of November, 1927. In the morning, I used to get up. There was already the smell of coffee coming from the kitchen. I had my breakfast. I dressed, went to school, came back. Everybody knew there will be a war. There was no doubt about it. So, shall we say, at least during the last 2 weeks, everybody was quite convinced there will be a war. The question was, how long will it last? Father went upstairs, and mother made a little case for me with the essential clothing and so on, and which was very clever. My father gave my brother-in-law my birth certificate, so that they didn't take just a child with a strange child with them. He could prove who I was. And so I left with my sister and brother. That was the beginning of the trip. The journey at first was reasonably fast, was on a road. But very soon, on the third, fourth, fifth day of the war, the streets, the roads became filled with people trying to escape. I remember until this day a scene where I looked out the window and I saw heads, and the bus used to sit quite high. I saw heads of people, a sea of people moving, carrying the bus along, because the bus went along at about the same speed. Everything on the road, civilians and here and there, army people, and all sorts of vehicles, bicycles, women on a motorcycle, horses, carts, and lots of people walking.
So she's speaking Lithuanian. This lady is a former employee of the consulate in Vilnius, and she says in 1939 Lithuania was the only escape route for various ethnic groups, including Poles and Jews.
Well, first of it was the Vilno of the Russians, then the Lithuanians came in. Wintertime, the school was closed when the temperature was less than 21 degrees, minus 21. So what did we do? Instead of going to school, went down to the river to ice skate. So altogether, I have good memories of it.
In 1939, the diplomatic institutions of Lithuania were located in its temporary capital, Kaunas. The Polish refugees needed to obtain transit visas in order to enter Lithuania. The consulate of the Republic of Lithuania, which operated in 1939 in Vilnius, then part of Poland, helped refugees to reach Kaunas. Its consul was Dr. Antanas Trimikas.
So she's saying they continued to flee, and there was a long queue stretching from the second floor of the George Hotel to the nearby department store. I don't know what it has become now, she says, but they were all standing in a queue. And from this balcony, they used 2 whole floors, and it went across Jagiello Street as far as that house. The place was overflowing with people from Poland, as well as, of course, people from Lodz and Breslau districts. There were business people who'd come from Warsaw. All the rich people streamed into Lithuania, and they gave visas for Kaunas to all of them. So they knew that there were consulates of various countries in Kaunas, so they could then escape to whichever country they wanted to go to.
We arrived to Kaunas, and it was a city of everything. It was a little Paris. Beautiful little city. You could get everything. Everything was normal. And my brother-in-law's brother in Vilno had some friends in Kaunas, and they took us out for dinner to a kosher restaurant, and the waiter brought a whole loaf of white bread, cut. He had to bring 2 more loaves of bread. There's a boy at that time of 13, 14, ate perhaps a whole loaf like this, including 2 or 3 plates of all sorts of meats and so on. Everybody was afraid that I'll burst after.
And my parents would probably say there is no such thing as an unhelpful Lithuanian. Everybody contributed in whatever way they could, just as they continue to do to this day.
So the first thing we need a passport. We found out that the British charge d'affaires in Kaunas thing, he said, it's better than nothing. And so he obtained those certificates for the whole family, English document by the British Charge d'Affaires in Kaunas, was issued on behalf of the Polish government in exile in London. And we were all very, very doubtful as to whether consulates would accept it as a passport. In our particular case, we had no problem with that document, and in the whole story of Sugihara, the charge d'affaires of the British consulate in Kaunas should have, I think, received a bit more praise than he did. Because without that, you couldn't get the visa.
In 1940, Sir Thomas Preston provided the Jews with around 1,200 legal travel certificates that helped them to escape the Holocaust through Japan or Sweden. He also issued illegal Palestine certificates for the Jews to escape through Istanbul to Palestine.
So this is another Jewish survivor. She says, another person I met in Israel was also saved by Sugihara. His name is Zorav Balhavtik. He later became a religious minister.
He didn't think about himself, but about the 15,000 Jewish refugees from Poland who came to Lithuania. Many people didn't see how important it is to live in Lithuania, because after all, Lithuania was a neutral state. The Soviet Union annexed Lithuania only in late.
Right, so Inaba Sensei, over to you.
Okay. Thanks for inviting me to nice lecture here. My name is Chiharu Inaba. I'm a professor of international relations in Meijo University, Nagoya, Japan. And this photo is Chiune Sugihara Square, where Chiune Sugihara graduated a high school. That high school name it's nowadays Zuiryo High School. In the front of Zuiryo High School is this square. It's built 2018. At that time, I was also helped to build this square, and but today I will speak Chiune Sugihara and the British contributions for rescuing Jewish refugees in Lithuania in 1940. But two kind of safe conduct or documents I'd like to explain now. But before I start talking, it's same as Oskar Schindler and Wallenberg. It's a famous rescuers of Jews from Holocaust. Their story has something criticized, and now their real history was clarified by historians. And also, Chiune Sugihara has big questions that Chiune Sugihara rescued the Jews from Holocaust. It is said. It has been said. But I started make a research cooperation with Lithuanian historians 10 years ago. Then it was identified that it's in the 1940s. It's summer, when Sugihara rescued the Jews. At that time, Lithuania was not Holocaust yet. In Lithuania, Holocaust started after the Soviet attacked, German attacked the Soviet Union in June 1941. Before that, in Lithuania, there was no Holocaust yet. So Sugihara, it's rather difficult to rescue Jews from Holocaust in 1940 summer. That is one big question I was known 10 years ago. So then what has happened really in Lithuania in the summer 1940, and how Sugihara rescued Jews from Lithuania to Japan? We have to rethinking. So today I will explain the little bit at first the Lithuanian situation, Polish situation, and Lithuanian situation after the outbreak of the Second World War, and then what has really happened and what is necessary for them, for Jewish refugees. I will explain. Okay, so now I start. It's refugees came to Lithuania since 1939. It's 1st of September. It's Second World War was broken, and West Poland. This area is West Poland. West Poland occupied by Hitler, and that 17th of September, Soviet Union attacked Poland, and Soviet Union occupied east part of Poland. This area was occupied by Soviet Union, and war refugees came from Poland to Lithuania, but those first is soldiers. Polish soldiers came to Lithuania, and peasant from Suwałki region. Suwałki is this part was it's East Preußen area. It was occupied by German farmers, and all the Polish farmers and peasants was thrown from Suwałki region to Lithuania. And religious Jews, it's, let's say, ultra-Orthodox Jews. Or let's say it's Jewish religious school, yeshiva schools students. They come from East Poland, and some bourgeois, rich Jews came from West Poland. But 2/3 of, or 3/4 of refugees came from East Poland. It means those areas was occupied by Soviet Union, not the German occupation, not German occupation area. It means that in Soviet occupation area there was no Holocaust. And many of the Jewish refugees came from the Soviet occupied area. There was no Holocaust. Why? No Holocaust, then run away from East Poland to Lithuania is a very big question. And there it's there it's a Soviet. It's denied the freedom of religion at that time. So shutdown of Catholic Church in Polish, Eastern Poland. There are Poland is a Catholic country, so there are a lot of Catholic church. But also Polish Eastern border, there are many Orthodox churches and monasteries, and also yeshiva schools are there in Eastern Poland. Especially in Eastern Poland, there are many Jewish yeshiva schools. And many religious leaders were liquidated or deported to Siberia. And Orthodox Jews, and not only Orthodox Jews, but many of them are Orthodox Jews, decided to run away to Lithuania, which guarantees the freedom of religion. Still freedom of religion. So, it's from Soviet occupied Eastern Poland to Lithuania. There's, of course, border, but no marks or no fences. So everybody can easily pass through from Eastern Poland to Lithuania. And you see, this line is Eastern Preußen. It's impossible to run away from West Poland via East Preußen to Lithuania. So only Soviet Lithuanian border Jewish refugees can pass through. And so more than 30,000 refugees came from Poland from the September 1949 to the beginning of 1940. And Lithuanians, it's never refused to accept, never refused those Jewish refugees, or it's impossible to refuse. There is no borderline. It's just everybody can walk. So just they have to accept or obliged to accept. So they, anyhow, many refugees came. So Lithuanian government establishing 6 refugee camps and 8 POW camps. And not only camps, but also supply of food for 30,000 people, food, clothes, medical care, and children's education. So especially in Lithuania, is in autumn, but in my experience in Lithuania, Lithuania autumn is a Japanese winter. And Lithuania winter is, same as Finland, is a terrible cold. It's impossible to wear the autumn clothes. Needed a very, very thick coat and boots and everything. So Lithuanian government have to prepare those wares, clothes. So, and but basically, no country wanted to accept the refugees. No country wanted to accept the refugees, but they have been already in Lithuania. But if those refugees who wanted to leave from Lithuania, it's Lithuanian government support for emigration to foreign countries. But how to support is again question. So most of refugees came from Poland to Lithuania. They didn't have passport. They didn't have passport. So it's Sugihara's rescue story is also one biggest question is that Sugihara issued a visa, but those refugees, they didn't have passport. How to put a visa? It's impossible to put a visa on the passport. So need a Lithuanian refugee acceptance process is at first making a refugee list and issue of refugee certificates, possibility of living in the camp and accepting food and clothes, and issue of safe conducts. It is Lithuanian language says leidimas for refugees who would like to leave Lithuania. That leidimas is the most important thing that in the opposite side of leidimas, Sugihara issued a visa. The safe conducts substitutes for their passport. The other side of the conduct is issue of Sugihara visa, but again, rather complicated things is some refugees got Zashbiagenie certificate in wartime from the British Consulate General. This I will show. This is it's a Lithuanian government issued leidimas safe conduct. And the opposite side of leidimas, there is a Sugihara visa. And it is written that this visa is refugees, he can go to Japan via Iraq and Palestine. But those Jewish final destination was Palestine. It's via Japan, via Palestine to Japan. It's rather strange. Rather strange. This is also very strange visa. Final destination, Jewish refugees' final destination is Palestine. But visa is for Japan. But anyhow, this is a Lithuanian government issued the lady was safe for conduct other than its passport. And one more thing is the Zashbiagenie certificate. This is also same as safe conduct. It's those whom they didn't have a passport had to keep this document, then they can leave from Lithuania to foreign countries. And this is Zoraf Barhaftiks, its videos explain that religious minister, later become a religious minister, Zoraf Barhaftik, Zashbiagenie. And Zoraf Bar, this document has issued by the British Consulate General in Kaunas, because the consulate was child affairs of the Polish exile government in London. But anyhow, this is written in Polish, basically in Polish. And Lithuanian now I would like to explain a little bit. Lithuanian government received them without refusal and provided refugee camps and offered accommodation, food, clothes, medicine, and other important facilities, including safe conduct. But the British Consul General Thomas Preston, I'm not sure, this is a signature, and it is written that two kind of certificate. Why it's Lithuanian government didn't issue all of refugees those kind of certification, and why it's some of them is receiving its certificate from the British Consul General. I asked them, but their answer is rather unclear. Rather unclear is why then maybe it's Lithuanian government got the money when they issue a certificate. But Polish, the British Consul Generals, they didn't get any money to cheaper place they went, or I'm not sure. But anyhow, it's I want to know it's exactly whose signature it is. It's my this time is my biggest question, but Lithuania was in June 1940. Lithuania was occupied by Soviet Union, and in the beginning of August, Lithuania was annexed by Stalin and become one of Lithuanian Soviet Republic. And if the refugees couldn't leave there after the end of 1940, they had to become the Soviet citizen. But again, rather complicated things is that it's how about the Lithuanians? Lithuanians, whom he has, they has a Lithuanian nationality. This Lithuanian became immediately became a Soviet citizen. And Soviet citizen, they couldn't go to any other place without KGB's permission. It means that it's Lithuanian people became the Soviet people, and they cannot leave from Lithuania to any other countries. Only refugees could leave from Lithuania to Japan. But again, it's rather complicated things that after the Soviet occupation of Lithuania, freedom of religion in Lithuania wasn't approved. So it's the same as East Poland, where the freedom of religion was lost. And now Lithuania is also freedom of religion was lost. So refugees who couldn't accept the Soviet regime, such as the Jewish rabbis and the yeshiva students and Orthodox Jews, wished to immigrate to other countries and asked diplomatic missions in Kaunas to issue visas. So, and now it's Chiune Sugihara is coming. So it's those refugees visited the Japanese legation in the middle of July and asked to issue the Japanese visas. Consul Sugihara set conditions for the Japanese transit visa, and to need who want to get a transit visa, hold a visa for his or her final destination. So because Japanese visa is a transit visa, need a final destination. And also ticket and travel expense for the destination. But those refugees, they didn't have final destination at all. And they didn't have money. So very big obstacle in front of there. But Dutch consul Jan Zwartendijk issued Curaçao visa for the refugees. Curaçao visa is not a visa, but Curaçao, it's a Caribbean island. To enter the Curaçao, need not any visa. It's just Zwartendijk explained that it's to land the Curaçao need not a visa. To write looks like a visa. It's Jan Zwartendijk's work, and Chiune Sugihara accepted, regarded the final destination as a Curaçao visa. And money is very important. But most of them, they didn't have money. They asked the money from US Jewish funds. It's Joint Distribution Committee, New York, raised funds in the United States and Canada, and supported Jews in German-occupied Europe, all over Europe. And it's JDC delegation to Lithuania, Moses Beckerman, would have promised more than 1,000 refugees who didn't have money to arrange the travel expense, and condition B was completed. So Sugihara decided to issuing a transit visa late in July. That is the, but I don't have any more time, so I just skip the JDC fell into difficulty in Lithuania. I just skip. And this is a Sugihara visas. It's like 2,140 people's list is here. And here is skipping Beckerman's affairs. Yes, skipping. But again, refugees are the big trouble in traveling to Japan. Rich refugees, it's no problem. They had money, so they just bought it's a ticket, a Trans-Siberian Railway ticket, and came to Japan. Very easy. But many of refugees, they didn't have money. So yeshiva students, rabbis, and their families, 1,500, 1,600. So they got support from United States and departed to Japan in the end of December 1940. So, but again, rather complicated things that it's those Sugihara's visa, a lot of false visas. Lot of false visas. And the Lithuanian Special Archive of Vilnius, there are a lot of false Sugihara visas. Why? In the Lithuanian Special Archive. Special Archive means in Russian language, Osoby Archive. It's those archive was the person who was arrested by the KGB. This document is preserved in the Special Archive. So the person whose document here means that they were arrested. So, and this is a special archives in Vilnius, and there are 85 first certificates, and those of them was surely arrested by the KGB because of their document is something false. I don't know where is false, but something false. And also some kind of, this is also false Sugihara visa. Two kinds of false Sugihara visas also existed. And, but Soviet KGB, they couldn't identify, is it false or true visa? They cannot read Japanese. But when those refugees came, arrived in Tsuruga, it's in Japan. It's Japanese passport control officers immediately know this is false. Oh, this is false visa. You cannot enter to Japan. But it's once they departed from Soviet Union, they are not Soviet nationality. They cannot return to Soviet Union. So they became both refugees. Rather complicated. But anyhow, it's Japan accepted all of refugees. And they give in Kobe, it's more than 1,000 refugees came, 1,500 refugees came, and Kobe Holiness Church distributed applause. Anyhow, it's sorry, I don't have any more time. And but as then it's again big problem. It's the 28th of July 1941. Japan invaded the southern French Indochina, and 1st of August, United States carried out embargo on oil export and stopped any remittance to Japan, including its Jewish funds support. In August, most of US citizens left Japan. So 1,098 Jewish refugees were isolated in Kobe. Most of them lived in Kobe. And Japanese government deported those refugees to Shanghai under the Japanese control. Shanghai was also under the Japanese control at that time in August 1941. And unfortunately, the 8th of December 1941, the Pacific War was outbroken. And most of the refugees were isolated in Shanghai up to the end of the World War II. But final result, immigration from Lithuania, like 2,000 to 2,200 refugees arrived in Japan. Sugihara's story told us 6,000 were rescued, but not 6,000, let's say 2,000, 2,200. And 1/3 was rich Jews, travel expense paid by themselves, 1/3 yeshiva student, rabbi and their families, and 1/3 the other Jewish and non-Jewish refugees. And US Jewish funds supported 2/3 refugees, and totally $272,000. It's at that time is $194 each. And anyhow, rescued refugees were rescued by not only Sugihara, but also Lithuania and the United States and United Kingdom. It's my conclusion. Thanks for your listening.
So let's do some Q&A. I don't know how many of you were already familiar with the background to this story. I mean, it's reasonably well known. We've had events here at Daiwa before. But this seems like a different version of the story.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, in other words, you think that the existing story has been kind of overdone? That in fact Sugihara didn't save as many people as is traditionally said?
Yes, but the 2,000 is quite much.
Yeah, it's quite
It's 6,000 is very much, but the 2,000 is quite much. Sugihara rescued 2,000 is a very big amount.
Right, and they were from Eastern.
Yes, and most of them are from Eastern Poland.
Right, so not actually fleeing the Holocaust.
Not the Holocaust, but Sugihara, it's his purpose was not to rescue Jews from Holocaust, but as a result, they were rescued from the Holocaust.
Okay.
That is my
Great.
conclusion.
Right, well, I'm sure there's some questions from the floor as well. So, who would like to ask a question? Please.
Inaba-sensei, thank you very much for very precious story on Sugihara-san. And I want to know how Japanese military regime involved in this kind of movement. As you said that Jewish people arrived Tsuruga
Yes,
port,
yes, Tsuruga port, yes.
and then I think
Most of them went to Kobe.
expected to receive, I guess.
Yes, it's
So,
hi.
but at that time, Japan and Germany is associated country.
Yes, yes. Okay, I will explain a bit about the such kind of background. You see, it's Germany and Japan, the Triple Alliance. Yes, but it's exactly that time. It's the outbreak of the before the outbreak of the Second World War. Hitler has concluded a non-aggression pact with Stalin, and Japanese government was completely shocked. Why? It's Japanese most dangerous, biggest enemy was Soviet Union. It's confronted in Manchuria. So, and why Germany it's concluded a non-aggression pact with Stalin? And Japanese was very much scared about Hitler's attitude. And Poland is, of course, an important factor in Japanese military. It's before the Triple Alliance, most important military cooperation in Europe was with Poland. It's Poland and Japan is exactly confronted the Soviet Union. So Japan and Poland has cooperated. And then this Sugihara supported the Jewish refugees. There are many Polish officers. They changed their ways and they got the false documents and they got the Japanese visa. Otherwise, if the Polish officers, it's run away to Lithuania was found, be arrested by Germans or Soviets. So very dangerous for Polish officers. So they asked the Sugihara for help. So that's the reason why it's a Sugihara. It's made a cooperation with Polish officers in Kaunas also. That is a more complicated affair, and so it's at that time it's Polish officers gave Sugihara very important information about Soviet Union, and it's Sugihara gave a not false visa or true visa, or I don't know, but give visas to not only visas but also Manchurian passport to those Polish officers and helped them. So it's but anyhow it's something rather complicated. But Japanese it's general staff in Tokyo made the wanted to make a cooperation with Germany, but in Kaunas it's a completely different way was happened.
And one of the traditional parts of the story is that Sugihara was breaking the rules. He wasn't supposed to be issuing these visas, and I think he's said to have been sacked eventually.
Yes, that is also a very big question. That is also a very big question, because it's after Sugihara returned. It's after the Second World War. Sugihara was camped in the Romania up to the end of 1946, and he returned to Japan in the beginning of 1947. And when he arrived to Japan, he went to the foreign ministry to continue work. But it's foreign ministry says that it's oh, you must be, we fired you. And Sugihara couldn't listen the reason, but he thought that he issued visas for refugees in Kaunas. It's 2,140 visas, he said. So that's illegally. That's the reason why he was fired by the foreign ministry. He was sold, or not he, but it's his wife sold like that. But I'm not sure he was really the reason of issuing a visa fired, because it's after the Second World War. It's Japan was occupied by United States and prohibited to make a diplomacy with any countries. So foreign ministries, two-thirds of foreign ministries personnel were fired. Maybe it's Sugihara was one of them. It's fired the two-thirds of personnel. I'm not sure, but it's rather unclear that he was really fired by the reason of the issuing a visa or not.
I see. So he was just made redundant, basically. Yeah. Okay, we had another question towards the back.
Thank you, Sensei. I'm Habib Badawi, professor from the Lebanese University. I'm specialized in Japanese history since 2005, 20 years. What I understand from you that the threat to the refugees came not from Nazi Germany, but from Stalinian Soviet Union.
Yes.
So that they want to come to Palestine before the Holocaust. Is that right? Can you explain more, please?
Yes, it's they. You see, it's some kind of it's ultra-Orthodox. I'm not sure ultra-Orthodox or not, but it's those yeshiva school students and rabbis. They wanted to go to United States or Palestine. But it's then question is that from Lithuania to Palestine, it's usually by train to at first go to Moscow, to go to Odessa, and from Odessa to by boat to Istanbul, and from Istanbul to go by train to Palestine maybe. But it is not easy because it's at that time in Turkey was rather it's confused. It's not so safety to travel in Turkey, Turkish area in the 1940, 1941. So they saw that the only way to run away from Lithuania was via Soviet Union to Japan. Is the most safety way, they thought. Yes, but
So it's right, isn't it, that most of the refugees who arrived in Japan didn't stay in Japan. They moved on to...
They wanted to leave Japan to United States, Canada, or Palestine, but again, in Japan, in Kobe, they are stranded because they didn't have enough travel expense. So the United States Joint Distribution Committee have to support many millions of Jews in Europe, so they couldn't enough money to support.
Okay, more questions? Yes.
Thank you for your. Thank you so much. So I'd like to ask you, how did that rumor about Chiune saved 6,000 lives come from? The story about.
You see, it's 1986, no, 1984. It's Chiune Sugihara's wife's book was published. Those books' name is Lives of Visa, 6,000 Lives of Visa. So in G took Sugihara's Sugihara never told by himself, but Sugihara's wife written that Sugihara rescued 6,000 Jewish lives, but it's Sugihara issued 2,140 visas. Why 6,000 is because one visa, but it's one certificate. There can put 3 photographs. It's the husband and wife and children. So 3 times bigger amount. It's Sugihara's wife thought. So she her book's title is 6,000 Lives. But she didn't know well. She lived in Lithuania with Sugihara. It's almost 2 years, but she didn't know what Sugihara had done by himself. She just take care of her children and something support of the consulate cleaning, or but not so the issuing a visa at all. Yes.
Okay, so another question back there.
Thank you for this really very interesting talk. Why did Japan move the refugees to Shanghai?
Oh, it's again, it's Jewish refugees staying in Shanghai, in Kobe, from it's beginning of the 1941 to the August 1941. They didn't have money either. So Joint Distribution Committee in New York always sent money from United to Japan, and those money, Jewish refugees survived in Japan. But they couldn't survive anymore because of the Japanese aggression of the southern Indochina, and US embargo started. So Japanese police was very much afraid how they would do after that. But Japanese government don't want to give them a support because they got a just transit visa. But they didn't have any money and they cannot go anywhere. And one more thing that most those refugees came from Lithuania to Japan via Soviet Union, and Japanese security police was very much afraid that some of them were Soviet spy. So they don't want to make those refugees stay in Kobe as longer. That's the reason why they decided to, but it's impossible to kill them, so deported to anywhere, and easiest place in foreign country was Shanghai. Yes.
Okay, and another question here in the middle.
Thank you, that's really fascinating. So, since it was more about sort of religious reasons, or to run from religious persecution, possibly,
yes.
I just wondered whether whether any Christians also took that route or went with them. Is there any?
Yes, it's two-thirds is maybe religious. Or one third is religious and one third is rich bourgeois, and one third is others. And maybe such kind of Christians was a richer part. They took money from their own pocket or from their father's or mother's pocket and came to Lithuania as a refugee and paid a travel ticket, not only travel ticket, but staying fee in Japan, also paid by themselves, and survived. But yes, so there are, I think it's more than 100 Christians also included Jewish refugees. Yes.
So just to clarify that, you're saying that some of the 2,000 visas issued by Sugihara were issued to Christians, not Jews?
Sorry,
Yeah.
yes, it's Sugihara issued refugees.
Right.
There's Jews or non-Jews, or,
Yeah.
or for him it's nothing different.
Yeah. Okay, any more questions? Yes?
Thank you for your very interesting lecture. I'm just wondering about he's less well known, I think, than Raoul Wallenberg, and that they had similar, roles in a lot of ways. Wallenberg disappeared into KGB captivity and was never seen again. Why was Sugihara not? Why did this not? Why was he not threatened by this like this?
Yes, it's see, before Sugihara issues a visa, Sugihara surely negotiated the KGBs in Lithuania, because it's without KGB's permission, it's anybody could not move in Soviet territory. You see, it's in the Soviet time, it's the people who are living in one area to, for example, from Lithuania living, they cannot move from Lithuania to other region, for example, Belarus region, or for example, Moscow. When they want to move other region, they have to get a permission. And those permissions issued by KGB always. So Sugihara, before Sugihara issued a visa, Sugihara surely negotiated with the KGBs that if the Japanese visas issued, did you give a permission to pass through from Lithuania to Vladivostok? And Soviet Union accepted the Sugihara's offer. Why the Soviet Union was accepted those offer was the again question, and one scholar has written that its Soviet Union was under the US sanctions after the Finnish Soviet Winter War, but Soviet Union wanted a foreign currency much, and Soviet Union asked the refugee to pay a ticket price as US dollars, not other currency, only US dollars. The Soviet Union accept, so it means that it's United States dollars, US dollars collected by the Jewish Joint Distribution Committee in New York had to pay the US dollar to Soviet Union. Then Soviet Union wanted the foreign currency, and they paid. Okay, the Soviet permitted the refugees from Lithuania to Vladivostok. That is the biggest reason, as one scholar said, not I.
Okay, well, there's a question at the back first, and then I'll come to you after that, if that's all right.
Okay, this works, yes. Yeah, thank you for your talk. I was just wondering, usually Sugihara Chiune-san is regarded as a kind of Japanese Oscar Schindler,
yes,
de facto. Given what you have presented here today, I mean, I must say there's a caveat here. I missed a large part of it, but it seems to be the main thrust of what you're saying is that largely these refugees were not fleeing from the Holocaust as such, but for other reasons. So to what extent do you think that this kind of general dubbing of Sugihara-san as a kind of Oscar Schindler figure, to what extent do you think that that remains valid in the light of your research?
Yes, that is also my biggest obstacle. That it's when I started to research this kind of Sugihara, the true story of Sugihara, then it's Sugihara's family criticized me that why I show that Sugihara didn't rescue the refugee from the Holocaust. Then Sugihara's image become very bad. It's Sugihara's granddaughter believed and criticized me. Not only she, but some other Sugihara's some kind of relative or friends' daughters. Or they told me like that, but Yes, but still, it's Sugihara didn't rescue the Jews from Holocaust at that time, but Sugihara anyhow rescued them.
Sure, but surely Stalinist authoritarianism
Ye-
is, as it were, or
Ye-
can be as bad as Nazi kinds. If you're running away from potential, I don't know, incrimination that might lead to your death,
Yes.
then you know it doesn't make Sugihara-san you know worse for that. That's still to his credit, right?
Yes, yes, yes. It's yes. I understand, but it's yes. But anyhow, Sugihara rescued.
Truth trumps all, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's still a good story about Sugihara-san. It's just a slightly different story. Yeah. Okay, and the question here.
Thank you very much for such an interesting lecture you've given us. I would like to know, you did say several times that some of these refugees who were going to Japan wanted to go to Palestine. Is that the start of Israel?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, what was the last bit then?
Was that the start when they moved to Palestine? Was that the beginning of Israel?
No. Before that, you see, it's Israel was established in 1948, but it's many Jewish people living in Palestine at that time already in 1940s, and they some of them wanted to return to the hill of Sion. Yes, but it's not at that time it's Israel yet, so.
Okay. Well, I think that's probably about enough questions for now. We can carry on the discussion downstairs over a drink. I'm sure you're all used to how we do things here. But thank you very much indeed for a really fascinating presentation.
Okay, thanks.